Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Everything Wrestling. Today we will be going into Chapter 2 of our Survivor Series compilation. Today we are going into Survivor Series 89. Oh, I'm sorry, not going into. We're going to flash back to Survivor Series 89. So remember in the last chapter with Survivor Series 88, we talked about the logo and how I always love the WWF logos. They pop. Well, with this one, now we've gotten to be brighter. So again, always a fan of their logos, but now we have a brighter setup. And they actually end up using this logo for the next 2 or 3 years, I think. But this card was pretty much stacked. And thankfully, Mattel has given us a lot of figures, so we were able to do a lot more with this 89. So 89 was one of my favorite Survivor Series. So let's get to it. Survivor Series 89 was also the beginning of those cliche team names or those catchy team names. So as you can see, we had the Dream Team, the Enforcers. We all had them team, and I thought that was actually one of the fun aspects of the Survivor Series, which as the Survivor Series continued to progress, we lost that. But I thought when we were talking about the traditional elimination aspect, that was one of those cliche things that you look forward to see that when these individuals were all put together, what was the unique nickname or unique team name that they came up with. So the show was kicked off with the the Dream Team, which was comprised of Dusty Rhodes, Brutus, the Red Rooster, and Tito Santana. So we was able to get 3 out of the 4 individuals in that match. As you see, we got that Dusty, Brutus, and Tito. Like I said in the first chapter, I missed out on the Red Rooster, and I don't think we're gonna get a re-release of him, but you never know, because everything seems to be popping up. And they went against the Enforcers. So the Enforcers were comprised of the Big Boss Man, Bad News Brown, Rick Martel, and the Honky Tonk Man with Jimmy Hart and Slick at the time. So keep in mind, Slick was managing Big Boss Man, Jimmy Hart was managing Honky Tonk Man. So in this one, we done got variations of Boss Man. So we got a lot of Boss Man. So we had Boss Man in this one. Of course, we got Honky Tonk Man, greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. And then we did our own model, Rick Martel, because the model, which only was able to get 1 figure, and I doubt it if we ever get another figure, because Rick Martel really doesn't do too much wrestling or anything associated with wrestling now. So the chances, fingers crossed we get one, but don't hold your breath on it. So of course I had to make my own Rick Martel, and that's pretty much what I came up with. But yeah, so this one was a pretty good series, so to speak. But obviously the survivors was Dusty Rhodes and Beefcake. So the next match, or pretty much the next, this one was like match number 3, I think, because the Dream Team was number 2, that match. So this was number 3. You had the King's Court, which was comprised of Macho King, Randy Savage, Queen Sherry, Greg Valentine. It was supposed to be, I think, Dino Bravo and Earthquake, but if I remember right, something happened, and I can't remember what it was. My mind is escaping me right now, but somehow Barry Windham ended up in this match, and I think it was Dino Bravo. It was either Dino Bravo and Barry Windham, or it was Earthquake and Barry Windham. But Dino Bravo nor Earthquake, both of them was not in this matchup. It was actually, I think Barry Windham did end up in this matchup. So, but in the scene we got Barry, and the Barry that we used was a custom. As you can see, we used his Mattel body, but we did a custom head for him because I grew up on old school, and I'm always attached to the Barry WCW. I'm sorry, let me take that back. NWA Barry Windham. That Barry Windham would always be the Barry that I know. When he came over to WWF and he was the Widowmaker, they didn't do justice about him. I mean, he was the Widowmaker, Blackjack, and whatever else he was. But the Barry I know is the former United States champion that was in the NWA. So that's what we did our Barry based off of. And of course, their opponents was the 4x4s. And the 4x4s was comprised of Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Bret Hart, Ronnie Garvin, and Hercules. So obviously, we can only do 2 out of 4 of these. Hercules, hopefully we get a Hercules figure. We need a Hercules figure. But fingers crossed for that one. Ronnie Garvin, I'm almost sure we'll probably never get a Ronnie Garvin figure. If we get one, I will be very shocked, but I doubt if we ever get a Ronnie Garvin. So the only ones we was able to use was Bret Hart and Jim Duggan. And pretty much the survivors of that match was the King's Court, which was Earthquake and Dino Bravo. Look, I had to go do some research real quick. So I think I stand corrected. I don't know where I got Barry from. So I guess I added Barry because I wanted Barry to be there, but yeah, Barry was not in that match. So I stand corrected. And the survivors of that match was Randy Savage, Earthquake, and Dino Bravo. So forgive me on that one. And I had an Earthquake, but I do not have Dino Bravo. And we know we will never get a Dino Bravo. And if you do not know why, go do your research. That's all I'm gonna leave it at that. But yes, so to recap again, King's Court versus 4x4s. Barry Windham was not in that match. It was Earthquake, Dino Bravo, and hopefully you enjoyed my Barry. On to the next one. All right, so the next match normally would be, you would expect Hogan to be in the main event, but this year he wasn't the main event. So the next matchup was the Haw Maniacs, which was comprised of obviously Hulk Hogan. We had Jake Roberts and Demolition, Axis Smash. Now, before I proceed, I'm happy that we start getting those inserts in the Coliseum collection because they made for good backgrounds. I wish they had WWF on them, but we know the situation with that whole thing. So I'll take the little WWE logo on there. But yes, I love that background. Anyway, going back to it, I was able to pull off this whole scene. So that show you that we got a lot from Mattel. But the Haw Maniacs went up against the $1 Million Team. So the $1 Million Team was comprised of the Powers of Pain, Ted DiBiase, of course, and Zeus. So at the time that I did this photo, we hadn't got a Mattel Zeus yet. Now, obviously, this was done maybe 10 years, this was done about 10 years ago, this photo. So 10 years later, we've gotten a no holds barred Zeus, and hey, matter of fact, I think we've gotten 2 Zeuses since then, and they look good. I especially like the no holds barred version. But during this time, I had to use the the Jax Zeus, and it worked. You know, that Jax Zeus definitely still holds his own. But uh, as you see in the picture, of course, we used our custom powers of pain. Like I told y'all in chapter 1, I love my powers of pain, man. These I've always been a fan of them since the NWA days, also. So, and of course, we know that the sole survivor was none other than who? Hulkamania, Hulk Hogan. Could have been anybody else. And now the main event of that year was the Ultimate Warriors, which was comprised of course, Ultimate Warrior, Jim Neidhart, Shawn Michaels, and Marty Jannetty, the Rockers. Now, only reason that the Rockers didn't make this picture is because I don't have the Rockers. I know we got 2 sets of Rockers. I never purchased either set, and now I don't know if we ever get the Rockers again. So, yeah, they're missing from my collection. So I was able to only do 2 out of the 4, and they went up against the Heenan family, which was comprised of obviously Andre the Giant, Bobby Heenan, Haku, and Arn Anderson. Now, in this one, what I did was, I guess when I was putting this stuff together, I threw Tully in there because he represented my Heenan family. I didn't have Tully was my stand-in for Bobby because I didn't want to take my Bobby at that time and turn him into a wrestler because I didn't have the singlet. We didn't have, remember, during this time, we didn't have too many wrestlers in singlet, didn't have time to customize a Bobby. So, yeah, Bobby wasn't represented. Now, I could have just put the manager part in there, but I wasn't thinking during that time as I look at the picture now. So, Tully is the stand-in for Bobby. But yeah, and then on that other, outside of Bobby, of course, we didn't have a Haku. And we needed a Haku. We need one immediately. We should have been and had a Haku, but hopefully they get him down the line. I think he's on top of everybody's most wanted list. But the matchup between the Ultimate Warriors and the Heenan family, the sole survivor was the Ultimate Warrior. So hopefully this has taken you down memory lane. It's taking me down memory lane because as I'm looking at some of these old pictures, man, I don't know what. So I guess when I was doing this, I had one thing in my head. It's funny now to look back on it, but I mean that's the things. Again, as you see, this is all raw footage, putting it out there. We've come a long way, but we have studied wrestling. This is all about learning. So as I say, these were times that a lot of us came up in, and they were good times. And this is why we are wrestling fans to this day. So hopefully you guys, this brought back some good memories, and stay tuned for chapter 3. And until then, y'all stay blessed out there, and I'll talk to you on the next go around.